Welcome to the second video of second module. In first video of module 2 we had discussed and defined the topics which we are going to discuss in the second module, and the title of the second module or second lesson, that is agriculture sector of Pakistan. And आज की वीडियो में we are going to start off with the first subtopic of the second module, which is historical account. And in historical account, in today's video we will be discussing the development of agriculture before the consolidation of the British rule. That means we are going to discuss the setup of agriculture sector in the Mughal time period. That sounds very interesting and informative, and that must would be. So let's start. First of all, we'll discuss two different school of thoughts by different social scientists regarding the colonial impact. One social scientist school of thought used to claim that pre-colonial India was a stagnant society with very rigid social and economic structure, and the development and progress which we witness today in this region is basically the impact of British rule in this region. So that shows a very positive and optimistic picture and positive contribution of the British rule in this region. So the other school of thought by different social scientists has a very opposite opinion to this. According to them, the underdevelopment and disparity which we witness today in this region or this part of world is basically the result of colonial impact or the British rule impact. So they have very opposite opinion to the first school of thought. So these are the two different school of thoughts of social scientists having very different opinion about the British rule. So one can have his or her own judgment over the basis of factual information. The which school of thought is more towards the reality. The one thing is clear, that India was basically pre-capitalistic social formation or social structure before the British rule. So secondly, very important information or thing, that all the land in the British time period, before the British time period, in the Mughal time period, belongs to the king alone. There was no concept of private property of the land with any person. Rather, the usage of land cannot be done by any person, and the permission of using the land granted by the king only. So king is the basically owner of the whole land in the region, and he owns the land, and he developed a setup for revenue collection and for a smooth running of this sector. So in this setup, first of all, there was concept of mansabdars or jagirdars. Who are these mansabdars? These were the part of the ruling class, and they mansabdars used to have strong and big armies to serve the emperor whenever the emperor needed them to do so for them. And that means that they are the ruling class, or they are the part of the ruling class. In return, they are paid salaries in cash by the king, or mostly or commonly they are given jagirs. That is why they are called jagirdars. These mansabdars and jagirdars are officials rather than the feudal lords, because they are responsible for collecting revenues from the peasants, and this revenue is finally sent to the king. And very important thing or very important directive by the king is that these mansabdars used to be transferred from one place to another place after some time period, so that they cannot hold or they cannot make a foundation or base in the area or influence the area where they are resided. So these are the concept of mansabdars. They are the officials rather than the feudal lords, and they do not own any land. They are basically revenue collectors, and they are part of the ruling class having their own armies. Then comes the zamindars. Who are these zamindars? These zamindars are appointed by the emperor. Again, they are also the revenue collectors. They are responsible for collecting revenues from the peasants or from the tenants on the behalf of the king. and how the king decided and appoints different zamindars. These zamindars are basically influential people of the village or of the specific region, so they are appointed as zamindars by the king. They are local lords or the masters, and although they do not own any land, they are the revenue collectors, but besides that they use to assert their authority. They are used to be presided over all the social and judicial matters of their area or their village. They do not own any land, as we had quoted earlier that all land was basically owned by the king alone. There are some lands also besides these mansabdars and jagidars and revenue from these two kind of lands. There were lands which are said to be as khalisa lands. So these khalisa lands are the lands in which the revenue collected and sent directly to the central authority or the state. So upon having this setup of mansabdars, jagidars and some khalisa lands, one thing is clear, that there was no question of land being inherited by either the peasants family or the zamindars family or the jagidar's family. There was no occupancy rights of anyone holding the land. Land is owned by the king only, and zamindars and jagidars were the persons, they assert authority over assigned tracts of lands, and that authority is assigned by the king or the emperor of the time. In 1707, when very important Mughal emperor Aurangzeb died, Mughal empire became or started to decay. As the central authority started weakened, this whole setup gets weakened, and zamindars and jagidars became more strong wherever they could be and wherever they were residing at that time. They tried to strengthen their claim on the land they were holding and the peasants or tenants they were holding. So this is all about the development or the picture of agriculture sector in the Mughal time period or before the British rule in this time period. The setup or the Mughal emperors were having a setup of these different kind of people, mansabdar, jagidar, and the lands, khalisa lands. They were influential people. They were which were alliance towards the emperor. Which used to make them more strong from the area. And revenue is collected through this setup and finally sent to the state. So this is all about the setup of agriculture sector before the British rule, and this video ends by this. In the next video we'll be discussing the impact of British rule in the agriculture sector of this region or this subcontinent region. By this video ends, and we'll be discussing the next subtopic in the next video. See you then.